The legacy of some of Hollywood's biggest names is in doubt this Oscar Sunday, tarnished by charges of sexual misconduct. But should that taint extend to their most beloved works? A question pondered by Tracy Smith in our cover story.
If you need to be reminded why they called Alfred Hitchcock the master of suspense, just take a look at his 1963 film, The Birds. It was 31-year-old Tippi Hedren's first big movie role, and she was a natural as the blonde victim. But there was horror off-screen, too. Hitchcock, she says, made her life miserable.
You can say, "Me Too."
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. And I did have those Me Too kinds of situations. Oh, yes.
In her 2016 autobiography, Hedren says the director hounded her for sex and lashed out at her when she refused.
He said, "I'll ruin your career."
Yes.
And it was because you...
Because I turned him down.
Why do you think there are biographers, people who've worked with Hitchcock who say, well, this wasn't the man that I knew?
Well, aren't they lucky? And why would they know? Why would they have the same relationship that I would have?
For her, the movie will forever be clouded by what went on behind the scenes.
Do you think that we can appreciate a groundbreaking work of art, even if we know that the man behind it might not be that great of a human being?
It might be difficult. It might be difficult to separate the fact that there is a great piece of art, but boy, you don't want to get be alone in the room with him. You know?
So, do revelations about someone like Hitchcock change the way we think about his legacy? How about Kevin Spacey? He was scrubbed from his TV and movie roles after apologizing for misconduct with a minor. But does that make his earlier work, like American Beauty, unwatchable?
Don't interrupt me, honey.
And after a torrent of sexual assault allegations, all of which he's denied, Harvey Weinstein won't be at the Oscars tonight, or any other. But the films his companies produced and distributed have won a total of 81 Academy Awards. Can't remember the titles? There's an easy way to find out. Rotten Apples is a database that'll tell you if anyone connected with a film or TV show has reportedly been accused of sexual harassment or assault.
How about Psycho?
Paul Wagman and Becca Nutt are two of the site's creators.
Are you saying don't watch these if there's a rotten apple in them?
We're not saying that. We're saying here's information for you to decide.
Mrs. Bates.
I mean, do you think that's even possible to separate the art from the artist?
It's hard for me.
It's hard for me too.
You might recognize these two. Uzo Aduba for her Emmy-winning role in Orange is the New Black.
You need to be on your way because she don't like talking to you, not one bit.
Can we maybe turn down the lights?
And Amber Tamblyn for her work on this network and many others. Both are founding members of Time's Up.
When you look at the Academy Awards, I mean, there are dozens, probably hundreds of movies that were either produced by, directed by, or starring someone who's now accused of sexual harassment or sexual assault. What do we do with all of that art? How do we view it?
No film, no TV show, no work of art is paramount or that genius or more important than the physical bodies or physical selves that have been harmed in the process of making that work. And I think that's really important to remember when we're thinking about people's legacies who are very problematic.
I am less concerned with how and what sort of future they have and how their work gets to survive or not survive. I am more interested in what are we doing to make it right.
And in some cases, making it right means shunning certain shows and movies, even if it hurts.
Are we allowed to mourn those things, that art that we loved that now is tainted?
Absolutely, I did.
Do you mind sharing specifically what you've mourned?
Mine? Mine was The Cosby Show. You know, it's like almost makes me want to cry, like, you know, feeling that, you know, that I grew up on that show. I saw myself in that show. I recognize the power of that show, but I also recognize that is a show that was spearheaded by an individual who had lasting effects on a number of women. I am a woman. That is my tribe. I stand with those women.
Of course, history is littered with examples of artists behaving badly. Caravaggio, the brilliant Renaissance artist, was wanted for murder. Composer Richard Wagner was a virulent anti-Semite. And Pablo Picasso, who called women machines for suffering, is said to have abused his wife and girlfriends. But villains or not, their art is hard to ignore.
So we can separate the art from the artist?
I think it's humanly possible, yes. And I think in some respects it's important. This is a transformative moment.
Ted Braun, a documentary filmmaker and professor of cinematic ethics at USC, says we could reject troublesome art, but we'd be poorer for it.
It occurred to me that the American Western, which is one of, you know, our great traditions, might be viewed in certain respects, certainly by Native Americans in this country, as one long celebration of the extermination of Native Americans. And as such, you would look at it very differently than you would if you weren't aware of that. Would you want to remove all Westerns from the shelf? I don't think so. I wouldn't want to live in a world where those films were not seen. I couldn't imagine. We would be impoverished.
I was just plain lucky.
Now 88, Tippi Hedren, who lives on an animal preserve she founded north of Los Angeles, has quite a legacy of her own. Her daughter, Oscar nominee Melanie Griffith, and her granddaughter, Dakota Johnson, both followed her into the movie business. But she still has mixed feelings about her own time in Hollywood.
Can you watch other Hitchcock films?
Oh, yes. Yes, I can.
And fully appreciate
And they're two
them?
entirely different things.
Two different things. What do you mean?
Yes.
You're separating?
Yes, totally separate. My feelings about him, my thoughts about him, but he was a very talented man. Did incredible things.
You might say Alfred Hitchcock will always have a place in Tippi Hedren's life. Just outside her front door, a miniature of the famous director sits today in an ornate cage, a monument to a complicated legacy.